Peace. Here we are once again, back for the 2020 download. As we know, or as we should know, 2020 is a year of invisibility. So this is a year to perfect your science of being able to operate in secret, to be able to materialize in secret, to be able to conduct all of your business with people, places, and things in secret. 2020 is a year of lies. Lies if you fall for them, which is my point of why we need to step behind the scenes. The secret code for 2020, essentially, and of course I have the cards to guide the steps as we go along here. Divination is key. Our ability to utilize divination, our ability to utilize practical science with divination. See, this is a very thing that keeps us as well as the opposites. The opposites means those who are not into the occult. We both have the same problem, essentially, which is to merge with the other knowledge. A lot of spiritually orientated people are not really into science, and rightfully so, because mainstream science, the way it is taught, is not very appealing once you have discovered New Age information or Eastern information. Information from the East. All New Age information is New Age, new knowledge, it's just knowledge from the East. That's all it is, just to simplify it. So we don't have to make it spooky. It's secrets from the East. Because we are in the West, when we are awakened to the Eastern mysticism or the New Age knowledge or the Aquarian knowledge, because we know Aquarius to be the 11th house of community, close-knit community, like a cult. Aquarius represents our behavior within a cult. Those who are like-minded, those you can exchange intelligence with. For most people, this may be church. For others, it may be a temple, a synagogue, so on and so forth, where people go to synchronize their minds. So anything related to the new age is the coming together or to synchronize minds. Because we know Aquarius to be a fixed air sign. So Aquarius is a fixed air. So it's not a movable air like Gemini, or we can say, to make this even more simpler, because I don't really, it's no need to get complex, because this is very simple. It's really all about power. Because we have Libra, we have Gemini, we have Aquarius. Libra is a cardinal air. So Libra represents collecting information. Gemini represents dispensing information. So if we're dealing with a fixed air, that means this air is simply building or multiplying what it already is. So for example, in the case of anger, if you are angry in a fixed environment where the air is not really rotating, you're probably going to stay mad because the information in the ethers are not able to clear out. So the impressions that we make on the ectoplasma, or what we call ether, these impressions stay in your environment. Most of the time when we make impressions in our environment, most of the time it will clear out over time. When we expose our homes to fresh air, so on and so forth. So eventually energy can be cleared out. Like a person can literally die in a home, the home gets cleansed, then the next family will never even know what happened, which is probably what happens all the time anyway. It's probably, if you're not the builder of your home, if there's been families that lived before you, somebody probably died and you knew nothing about it. You're just living in it as if nothing happened, but that's just life. We don't really look at the backside of things. This is why 2020 represents the energy of Pluto. Looking at things from the back instead of the front. What is the difference? Let me give you an example of the difference. Because for those who may not understand what divination is the ability to see multiple realities at one time. So, for example, this is what the spiritual systems are: astrology, numerology, alchemy, supreme mathematics, supreme alphabet, 120, the Bible, the Quran, Dead Sea Scrolls, so on and so forth, Torah. All these things are systems of divination once you unlock it. Once you get past the surface value of things, the secret codes are hidden. They're not readily available unless you train yourself to notice them. And this is a secret code. You must train yourself to notice multiple realities at once. Let me give you an example because we don't really want to speak in terms that's too superficial. Let me give you a practical example of how this would play out in my own life. If you know the numerology of the day, for example, it's the 23rd day. We know that each number correlates to a planet. Each number has attributes, in other words. So even if you don't correlate it to a planet, it has attributes. So the number 2 has attributes and the number 3 has attributes. Because it's the 23rd day, those attributes will be on display the most often during this particular day, just strictly based on numerology. That's numerology, when you're just looking at numbers. So you're decoding numbers everywhere. So you're the numerologist when you're decoding all numbers everywhere. Everywhere you see numbers, you want to know what it is. You want to know what every house vibration is. You want to know where you work, the vibration of the address. You want to know all addresses, because once you know the attributes of the numbers, you know that whatever location this is a manifestation or a synchronization of these particular vibrations. So, for example, if you live in a home, let's just say you live on 811 Broadway Street, so your numbers are 8 and 11, or 811. We know 8 to be Saturn, and of course 1 to be the sun. And we can also apply that as a master number 11, which gives it more lunar attributes, because a master number 11 is the master seer, the intuitive, the one who can read the invisible forces. So, numerology. You understand the attributes of the 2. You understand the attributes of the 3. Then we know if we add 2 plus 3, then we get a 5, which takes us to Mercury. So we have the attributes of the moon, the attributes of Jupiter, and the attributes of Mercury playing out today. Those will be the dominant energies. Just numerology. That's it. You have an awareness of that as you go through your day, and you know the theme of the day, because numerology tells you the theme of the day. When you have that in the back of your mind, you keep that locked into your unconscious and your subconscious mind, and you go through your day knowing that. And then you combine that with your magical work, which you're already doing. You combine numerology with your magical work, which you should already be doing. So now you have the support of the planets with your magic, because now you're not just doing anything random. You're going to do some lunar magic because you know that the moon is in rulership. You're going to do some magic that correlates to Jupiter because you know that Jupiter rules. Or you're going to do magic in accordance to Mercury because you know Mercury rules. So the moon, Jupiter, or Mercury, these will be the center points of focus. So when you know what the center points of focus are, you know how to direct your energy because you know what forces are dominant. If you want to take this a step further, you then look at your own chart, your own natal chart, your own progress chart, and compare that to the transits. 3 layers deep. So you got your own chart, your progress chart, which is where you are now. You got where you are when you were born, your signature. You got where you are now, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And you also have what's going on in terms of the outer planets. So you have 3 layers to decode. Now this goes into astrology. You see, it gets more advanced. So we start with just the numbers and the attributes of the numbers. Once we get to astrology, now we start synchronizing planets. And when we start synchronizing planets, this prepares us for alchemy. Now, what is alchemy? Alchemy essentially introduces us to chemistry, the periodic table, biology, science, so on and so forth. It's the door that opens up all that. All the shit that confuses spiritual people with science, you have to study alchemy, because alchemy gives you the secret science that you're not going to learn when you go to school. You go to school, you learn chemistry. You have to learn alchemy yourself. When you learn alchemy and apply that to chemistry or whatever it is you already know, then you understand the invisible nature of it instead of just the physical nature of it. We can only go to school and learn the physical nature of things. You cannot learn the invisible nature of things. You must learn that on your own. This is why everyone lives in their own reality, because reality is based on how aware you are of the multiple dimensions. That determines our entire life. Because if you are able to see opportunity, you're going to take opportunities and you're going to be successful because you can see it. It goes beyond luck and guessing. You can see the opportunity because you have awareness of it. Just like you can know who's attracted to you. You know who's not attracted. You know the vibe. You can detect the vibe. Nobody has to say anything to you. It is a part of you. You could walk into a room, it's already decoded. You already know what to do, what not to do, who to go to, who not to go to. You can work any situation, any environment with occult science when you actually bring it to life. So one thing to study is another thing to bring it to life. When you bring these things to life, then nobody has to convince you of anything, because this is not belief. Let's make this very clear. We are not dealing with belief. We are not dealing with something you have to believe in. This is not belief. This is science. So when you study science, it will show you itself, where I don't have to convince you. I don't have to convince you that planetary vibrations is real, because when you study it, it will show forth its own science. I'm just here to introduce you to what proves itself. Because the ultimate debates in modern times, because we're dealing with modern science now. See, this is what gets people twisted. Because when we study modern science, they basically say fuck the past. They basically say, they're telling you that you came from a fucking monkey and you evolved over time. And the people that were building all type of shit that we can't explain still, they were primitive. Even though we don't know how they did it. They were primitive. They didn't have electricity because it was just discovered by Benjamin Franklin. We're given this false history, which is clearly not real. You're not building fucking pyramids and don't have access to electricity. It's not happening. Because we have access to electricity now, and you won't see pyramids being built. Because obviously it doesn't work that way. Just because we have iPhones and Android phones, we think we're more advanced. But let me make this clear. This is where alchemy comes in, the third degree of occult science. This is what alchemy teaches us. Alchemy teaches us the science of the metals. So let me give you an example. These little devices that we have, these little Apple devices, Android devices, if you have an Apple device, you're dealing with the metal aluminum, which correlates to the planet Mercury, once you know the science. So, You can see it in ancient culture where they're not walking around with cell phones, but they are working with metals. You see the Egyptian, you see the ankhs in their hand, they have metals. They are working with different forms of metals. They are doing that, even though it may not technically be a cell phone. So once we understand that we are not more advanced because we can Google anything, because if you go to ancient times, all you had to do was connect with aluminum or connect with quicksilver, because quicksilver is another word for mercury. You would connect with quicksilver, and that would tap you into the actual intelligence of mercury, because that's what metals do. They tap you into the vibrations of the planets. Once you know that, once you understand what the planets are, once you understand what the numbers are. See, it takes time to get to that level. But once you get to the level where you're working with metals, then you understand how there is no way that we were primitive and we're more advanced now. Because just because we have access to Google everything, you still see a lot of ignorant people in the world not utilizing their Google abilities, their Yahoo abilities. I don't want to emphasize Google like that's the only way. We see people, everybody has a cell phone. Is everybody researching? No. Is everybody reading ebooks, audio books? No. Some people just literally use their devices for entertainment. They're not using their devices to educate themselves or to create different sources of revenue. None of this matters. Why? Because the science has always been here and will always be here. There will always be those of us who are more advanced, who understand things from a different angle. Doesn't mean we're better, just means we're ahead of the curve. So that means we are in authority to position ourselves in power so that we can be of rightful service to the ones that don't know. See, that's the difference between those who give a fuck and those who don't give a fuck. Because if you actually do give a fuck, then you want to get in power and position yourself in power so that you can actually benefit people. So you can ask like, yo, I know y'all need this game. Let me give you this game. I'm going to put myself in power. So I put in schools that everybody know called science. That's someone who actually cares. Versus, I'm going to put myself in power and take the court out of the schools and keep people ignorant. That's the difference. So you must really ask yourself which type of person you are. Because if you actually want to be of rightful service, at the end of the day, you want to be righteous. You're not trying to scam or get over on anyone. You actually like, yo, I don't need to do that because I actually have tools. I can just create some alchemy, create some metal alchemy, put some gold on wrists, put some silver, and heal people. Let me actually do some shit that we're not even thinking about now. Because we're caught up with these devices. We're thinking we're futuristic, and it's just not the case. Because if you don't unlock your mind, you can't tap into Mercury. It does not matter if you have this. The symbol, the eye, it does not matter. If you have not unlocked Mercury within yourself, then it doesn't matter. Let me give you an example of how this activates. Because I've studied this. I know this. Because, sometimes I like to, dance around, be wavy, all this stuff. I've noticed that when I connect with the aluminum, it enhances my ability to move because of the metal aluminum activating the mercury within me or the quicksilver within me. What do I mean? So as you hear music coming from this device, just using this as an example, you hear music coming from it. So if I hold this device in my hand, now it's synchronized with my frequency. This is connecting me through the aluminum, not the electricity, the aluminum, which connects you to Mercury. So me holding this device, or anyone holding these devices, you are connecting with the intelligence of Mercury. Now, depending on how open your awareness is, will determine how much you can receive from the intelligence of Mercury. So for most people, it may be a Google search, it may be a Yahoo search. It's still tapping into the intelligence of Mercury. So whether you do a Google search or whether you grab a piece of metal, aluminum, and then you pose your question to Mercury and Mercury responds, either way, it's the same science in different form. So before, you connected with the metals directly, which connects you to the intelligence of the planets. And because we were attuned enough, you can receive an answer. And it was just life. It's nothing, nobody's really crazy about that because that's just the way it is. It's like no one's crazy about everybody having a cell phone in their pocket. It's normal. It was normal to have metals everywhere and you do science and rituals according to the metals and what type of vibration you're trying to produce. This is the last thing. I want to make this last thing clear because the words frequency and vibration are used interchangeably. You know, like frequency, vibration. We use these interchangeably, but one is more powerful than the other. And if you don't understand which one is more powerful, then you're going to be twisted. So let me clear it up. Vibration influences frequency. What do I mean? Let me use the example of music. You hear the music in the background. This music is being played at a certain tempo. The tempo is vibration. The tempo of a song, the beats per minute, is the vibration. The actual instruments or the vocals are frequency. Now, you can add or take away frequency, and it does not alter the tempo of the song. So you can take away some instruments, put in voices. You can do all type of stuff with the frequencies, but the tempo remains the same. However, when you influence the tempo or the BPM of a song, it changes all frequencies. It changes everything. So it don't matter what frequencies are at play or in play, they're going to be altered when you adjust the tempo because the tempo is vibration. So vibration influences. This is why music is so powerful. Because when you listen to music, it's encoding your neurons. Your neurons are being encoded by repetition, which is the tempo of music, the repetition, the beats per minute in the music is what programs us. So when you start feeling however the music has you feeling on whatever emotion it invokes, it is based on the vibration, not particularly the instruments. Then this takes us to pitch, hertz, because this is a little deeper now. You know, we have hertz. We had the whole debate between 441 hertz and 432 hertz. For those who may not be familiar with that, 441 hertz is how music is made and how most sound is produced. So basically, any video you watch on YouTube, anything you watch on TV, anything that's electronically produced, most likely, if it has sound, the pitch or the hertz of that sound will be 441 hertz. So everything, that's the standard. So 441 hertz is the standard for everything. That's just the universal standard. So when you alter the universal standard, when you alter it to 432 hertz, you would say, okay, well, that's not really a big change. You're only really, it's less than 10 degrees. Well, or you could say even 11, depending on which way you're looking at it. I say, prove it to yourself. Listen to one of these popular songs, like a song popular. Type in your most popular song and just put 432 hertz behind it. If the song is popular enough, somebody would have made a alternate version of a popular song. Do it for yourself whenever you have time. Listen to the song as you know it, your favorite song as you have always heard it your whole life. Listen to it. Then listen to it in 432 hertz. And you will notice that it affects you internally differently. The same fucking song that you have heard your whole life. You listen in a different hertz. It changes what it does to you because that's the power of sound or energy. Remember, if we want to understand it, the universe, energy, frequency, vibration, Nikola Tesla. If you want to understand the universe, understand energy, frequency, vibration. So I just gave you the difference between frequency and vibration, and energy is sound. That's all it is, sound, frequency, vibration. Now that we understand that, everything should be very simple to understand. Because I can simply talk in a different tone and it does different things to the mind. For example, like I'm speaking like this, like enthusiastically. But I can use my ASMR voice and it's going to affect the message differently. So if I speak like this, more hypnotic, if I speak with more clarity, people speak like this with the small tone, the softer tone. They want to give you love and light. It ain't about the message. It's about the frequency and the vibration. That's what you feel when people speak. You are feeling the vibration. So when they speak in different tones, in a way that's repetitive, like when you're speaking rhythmatically, rhythmatic speech. So with music, you have rhythmatic speech. That's why it programs, because you're speaking in rhythm. So when you do that in your normal time, when you can, which we do, our voices are like instruments. So we're like playing keys and shit, whether we know it or not. So you can alter the pitch of your keys and get a different reaction, because the brain just works that way. If you speak in different hertz, it programs or encodes your neurons with a different pattern. So me speaking this way is programming your neurons in a certain pattern. And when I speak this way, the neurons patterns change. Now the imagery that's being produced in your neurons are changing because I am altering the tone of my voice. And the alteration of the tone of my voice then produces different patterns. So now you feel differently as I am now lowering my voice. And I can go even lower, even lower, even lower till I'm damn near whispering. And this whisper ASMR voice is going to affect you differently. Now the patterns are changed because I'm speaking lower. So if I spoke like this the entire video, you will be affected in a different way. See, people who understand science, sound, they understand all this fucking advertisements and marketing. They understand how the brain works anyway. That's why they program us with these things, because they know how the subconscious, this is not a mystery or a secret to those who influence the silver screen. None of this is secret information. I'm sure that you can probably learn this in school, but applying the information outside of what we have studied is the difference between the occultists and everyone else. Because we master sorcery. When you are a sorcerer, you are mastering sorcery. What is sorcery? If you were to look up the definition of sorcery, it would say something like witchcraft. So, when you think about witchcraft, we think about curses and hexes and, what people think is black magic and all this stuff, negative things. Sorcery in reality is just pulling from the source. Sorcery, your ability to harness the source within yourself. But what is the source? Our solar plexus. Our solar plexus. A sorcerer knows how to utilize their solar plexus, because the chakras are not these passive vortexes that we have been taught. There's a reason we have been taught about the chakras in a passive way. Like you can't do shit effective with them other than balance them. We need to balance our chakras. Balance your chakras. You can do more than balance your fucking chakras. You can weaponize your chakras and really do some real shit, but they're not going to ever reveal the other side because they don't want you knowing it. But I'm going to fucking tell you because you need to know it, because it's time to receive power and gain power. Utilize your chakras aggressively and see the difference in your reality, because you should all be aware of it. You didn't balance your chakras enough by this time. You didn't did enough chakra balancing. Weaponize your fucking chakras by this point. No need to balance them. Weaponize them. Utilize your invisible forces. Invisible forces is chakras. Utilize your motherfucking chakras and gain power. Period. The powers, our invisible powers, are our chakras. So if all you're doing is balancing your chakras, you're not using them. Period. Same shit. All right, I'm out of here. Peace.